I want to briefly talk about five stages of grief as it relates to a way of not just coping with the death of a loved one, but coping with loss. The five stages of grief are a series of emotional roller coaster like emotions and stages of cognitive and conceptual types of processes that attempt to it's the mind and the body's attempt to um, deal with what it can't control. The stages of grief are as follows. There is what is called the initial denial stage. There is the emotional anger stage. There is the bargaining stage. There is the depression stage. And then there's the final depression acceptance stage. Um, Anytime we are experiencing any loss, we may go through any one of these stages. The stages are meant to be a template to help explain the struggle of trying to accept what we inevitably can't control. Um, Oftentimes, I hear people who struggle with the death of not only just a loved one, but the death of a situation or the loss of any kind. It could even be the loss of housing. The more aware we are of these stages, the more we are able to see that our mind and our body are processing things not just on a personal level, but these are bigger, more universal things that not only we have to deal with, but everybody else around us has to deal with. The idea of the stages of change, the idea of not stage of change, but the idea of the stages of grief give the notion that there is a beginning and an end to our grieving process. And it helps us navigate with awareness a level of scope or forecast that could create a cognitive buffer when we are in one of the stages, with the realization that although we're in one of the stages, that it can and will get to the next stage and eventually get to a point of acceptance. Um, Acceptance is an interesting framework. I believe that acceptance is not just merely accepting what's happening to you, but it is finding meaning, it is finding purpose, it is finding um, a, um, a a um, a resolve. It is siphoning the good out of a situation and allowing yourself to embrace what has happened that you can't control. It is giving value even to an experience that was in the past that is no longer in the present or has been taken from us in the present. And in knowing that the goal through the stages of grief is to find meaning in what we do, it can moreover help me course through the process, knowing that from the beginning. Especially if I'm identified as being in denial, where I do not accept what's happening to me. Knowing that the ending stage of grief of acceptance can let me know, okay, this is what it means when I get to this last stage here. Here's how I know that I'm getting better. One running joke that I usually have with my clients is asking the very strategic question: how long does it take to get over anything? How long does it take to get over a loved one? How long does it take to get over the loss of anything? And the answer will always be as long as it takes. um, it takes as long as it takes. You could grieve over something till the day you die. That's not, in psychology or therapy. That's not what's important about resolving things through the stages of grief. Um, you could cycle in and out of the stages of grief throughout the course of your life. what you hope to happen is that the strength of each one of the stages, the strength of the emotions are not so handicapping that it prevents you from living a functional, healthy life. And that's with anything. That's with any of the major psychosis that are the popular major psychosis out there: bipolar, anxiety, depression. No matter what it is, the goal throughout therapy is to decrease its impact on you, not necessarily to get rid of it. The goal in therapy, as it relates to grief, is not to necessarily get rid of someone's grieving process, but to help them coexist with it in such a way that they can live functional, healthy lives. The goal in therapy is not to get rid of the pain or the sting associated with grief or loss, but it is to help find rhythm and meaning and substance in what has been a loss in such a way that we are able to say yes to tomorrow. We are able to say yes even to today. We are able to recognize enough of the symptoms, or in this case, the stages, to be able to say, I can make it today. This is what I have in front of me. This is what I have ahead of me. And if I know what I have in front of me, if I know what I have ahead of me with regards to anticipating my emotional ups and downs, then maybe I can come up with some healthy coping tools to help me overcome those things. Maybe in anticipation, I can do some things with intentional behavior to be able to compensate for when I get low, when I get down, when I'm struggling to find meaning with things. What are some coping tools or some techniques that I can use to be able to cope and coexist with my emotions as it relates to the 5 stages? You have a great day. God bless.